Okay, I'm here to give you a brief tutorial on how to use ANSYS Workbench. So on a computer that has it installed, you're going to come here. I find it best to search for Workbench, because if you search for ANSYS, all the license stuff will come up. And so, anyway, you'll pull it up, and it will have a blank screen. I've already opened it because it can take a little while to open. So the first thing you're going to want to come do is, since it's a vibrations class, I'm assuming you're going to do a modal analysis. So click this and drag it in, and this little box will appear. You can then come up here to engineering data, double click on that, and it will open this tab, which allows you to choose materials. You can add your own if you wanted to make a custom material model. I'm just going to stick with the structural steel. That's defaulted there. Okay, then we can do two things for geometry, right? This is how you get in your 3D model of what you're going to do. You can edit geometry or create geometry in SpaceClaim, which is a 3D modeling software that ANSYS provides. Or, and this is because I've already loaded it, if you haven't loaded something, it'll say insert geometry here, and you can go and you can browse your files. And I've opened up this modal analysis test. If you want to import models from SolidWorks, I've found it works best. If you import them as save them in SolidWorks as IGES files, and then import them. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to double click on model after it's been imported, and that will open up this lovely thing. Again, I had it pre-opened because it can take a little bit of time. So the first thing we're going to go here is go to our geometry. You'll see it has a question mark by it. And the reason it has the question mark behind it is because we have not assigned a material to it yet. So I'm going to go here, click on the arrow, and assign structural steel. You'll note now that we have a check mark here. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to come to our mesh. Okay, the mesh is where it divides it up into elements so it knows how to calculate things. Typically, you can just initially mesh it by going here and clicking Generate Mesh. That's typically what you do, is just a default mesh. Then you can look at it and you can say, well, do I like the shape of my elements? Now, I'm not going to get into mesh convergence and stuff like that in here because this is a default. So we're just going to stick with our default mesh that we've got here. Okay, so then to do a basic modal analysis, we want to come in here and we have to tell it how this bar is supported. So this one right here is actually going to be a cantilever, and this is going to be the part that's affixed to the wall. So I'm going to click on that part that's on the wall, and here I inserted a fixed support, and so I'm click on that fixed support, click on that, and then I can click apply. And now if we look here, we can see that this face has a fixed support on it. Okay, we also want to go into our analysis settings, and this will give us options on how many modes we want to find, right? If we're only interested in the first 5 or 6 modes, finding 6 modes is great. If you want to look at, 20 modes, you can go out to 20. The more modes you have, the longer it will take to calculate. And there is an upper limit based on how fine your mesh is. You can only have, but again, not going to go into the details on that. We can talk about that later. So now what we want to do is we want to come to our solution. And we could solve it right now, and that would be great, but we haven't told ANSYS what we want to look at from our solution yet. So what we're going to go is we're going to go in here and we're going to say, well, we want to look at the total deflection or the total deformation of our shape. And we want to look at it in which mode? Well, probably we want to look at multiple modes. So what we can do is we can go in and we can insert a second one. A faster way to do that is actually you can just right click and you can click duplicate. Right, so this would allow us to look at 5 different modes. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say that one's going to be mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, mode 4, and mode 5. And maybe we also want to look at the stress-induced. Etc. Okay, so we can add in other types of things. But I'm just going to worry about deformations here. Okay, so now you can see that we have all these lightning bolts by all these total deformations. Also, one thing I like to do is if you click rename based on definition, it will actually rename them so it tells you what mode. That just helps me, not make mistakes. And you can see now that I do have all 5 different modes that I'm looking at. So now if I come here and solve, it will run my little solutions. And awesome, we can see here our modal frequencies. We've had it calculate for 6 modes, so we can see the frequencies from mode 1 to 6. And now we can come and click on our solutions, and we can actually look at the deflections in each of those modes. Right? And it even allows you to play an animation. So as you can see, this one is a side-to-side mode. Mode 2 is more up and down with some slight turning. Here we have mode 3, which is a torsional mode, etc. So that's the basics of doing a modal analysis in ANSYS. Hope you were able to use this to effectively review, and I will be available in T hours to answer any other questions.